What is it about moose that makes them so appealing? The short answer, everything. The word moose is derived from an Indian word meaning twig eater. Moose, the largest members of the deer family, are browsers existing mostly on twigs and leaves rather than grass. They also eat aquatic plants by submerging their heads deep underwater. Moose have enormous livers, giving them the ability to detoxify feed many deer can't tolerate. Moose habitat is at mid and high elevations. Typical summer ranges include riparian areas surrounded by aspens, willows, cottonwoods, and mountainous meadows with shrubs interspersed in heavy forests. Moose become heat stressed when temperatures exceed 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter habitat is essentially the same but at lower elevations. Moose browse needles from balsam fir trees and other fir trees during the winter. We will see moose in their natural habitat starting with newborns in the spring. Then we will see bulls growing antlers in the velvet stage and calves simply growing during the summer months. Soon we will watch as fall is signaled by the gorgeous change of colors, brisk temperatures, and the sound of bugling bull elk. At the same time, we will witness the moose rutting season as the biggest bulls establish dominance. As fall recedes, the moose settle in for a long, difficult winter. While watching this video, keep in mind I use powerful telephoto lenses to capture these images. Moose can be aggressive and should not be approached too closely. A good rule of thumb is, if an animal is reacting to your presence, you are too close. This bull is sending a clear message. These two tourists are simply invading his space. Spring has arrived. As winter releases its grip, new vegetation springs to life, and new baby animals begin a challenging journey. Everyone loves baby animals. Natural instincts and doting parents are their only chances of survival. Healthy babies love to play. Running and playing helps them develop skills for survival. This baby pronghorn is only 1 hour old, but has the instinct to stand and nurse. All baby animals love nap time. Now we will focus on baby moose. This is the first day of life for this baby, but she already knows by instinct to stay with mama. Moose calves weigh between 24 and 32 pounds at birth. Young moose are called calves until a year of age, when they are referred to as yearlings. Adult females are called cows and adult males are called bulls. This baby was hungry but had difficulty reaching high enough to nurse. The mother actually squatted a little bit and raised her leg so the calf could reach. But she could only hold that pose for a short time, and as her leg dropped, the baby would be knocked away. We had the incredible opportunity of watching Mama and baby for 3 days. We were alone, we were quiet and respectful, and this allowed the mother to be totally relaxed. This scene shows the extreme contrast of the size of the mother compared to the size of the baby. We were struck with how gentle and sensitive the mother could be while still being protective. Adult moose look extremely rough in the spring as they're shedding their heavy winter coats. It is now day 2 and the baby is nursing. Moose milk is higher in protein and milk fat than the milk of dairy cattle. With the rich milk, moose calves can gain over 4 pounds per day. It is now day 3, and with newfound energy, the baby is ready to play. Oops. The baby is clearly gaining strength, and by day 4, Mama and baby had moved on. This is a different day-old baby, which we nicknamed Floppy Ears for obvious reasons. Being just a day old, the baby was pretty unstable. A small but deep stream serpentined through the grassy meadow. While trying to cross the stream, the baby fell in. While the mother was clearly concerned, she had few options to help the baby. The baby struggled valiantly, but the mud refused to release its grip. Finally, the calf found some traction and climbed out of the mud. What a relief for both the mother and us. Floppy Ears had survived one of the first challenges to be faced throughout life. I explained earlier what a wonderful opportunity we had to spend 3 days alone with the mama and a new baby. We did not expect that opportunity to be repeated. But in fact, it was repeated 2 years later. As we kept our distance, the mother was completely relaxed with our presence. By the second day, the baby was full of energy and ready to play. She couldn't believe how fast and agile she had become. Then, in a split second, a somersault right into the water. Stunned, very wet, and covered with mud, the baby's playtime was over for the moment. This is the worst day of her life. Worst day so far. Laughing magpies seemed to enjoy the show. What the baby needed now was reassurance from Mama. The baby regained composure and demonstrated everything would be fine. A little quiet time seems appropriate after an incident like the somersault. It is now day 3 and the baby seems to be under control. The baby is clearly capable of traveling, and the mother and the baby make their exit. We cannot overstate our gratitude for the privilege of sharing time with these mothers and babies. Thank you so much. I mentioned earlier how rich moose milk is. This calf is about 1 month old and is a testament to how quickly the calves will grow. He is a picture of health and still loves to play. Wildlife biologists place radio collars on adult animals to study and track their movements within their natural habitat. Bulls begin new antler growth in the spring with just small buds on their forehead. Mature antlers from the previous year are shed during the winter months. The antlers will continue to grow in the velvet stage up until the rutting season in late fall. During the velvet stage, the antlers are soft and gorged with blood and can be easily injured. As we follow bulls through the summer and into the fall, it will be very apparent how quickly antlers grow. Summertime is a time for moose to relax, gain weight, develop a shiny hair coat, and grow their babies. This cow and calf were on the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska in July. Alaskan moose are the largest of 4 subspecies of moose found in North America. As I speak of the size of moose, I want to use the next clip to illustrate the size of the moose compared to an average vehicle. This driver avoided a collision which can often be catastrophic. This cow had healthy twin calves. Fireweed is so named because they are the first flowers to come back following a wildfire. This next cow and calf were in central Alaska in July. Both are the picture of health. I had mentioned earlier that moose feed on aquatic plants. Aquatic plants are high in protein and sodium. Moose can close their nostrils, allowing them to keep their heads submerged for long periods of time. The cow always had a quick look around for predators when she came up for air. Moose often drop their ears just before they charge another animal. Here, she's simply dropping her ears to drain the water out. The calf hasn't learned the art of eating underwater vegetation. Notice how carefully this cow is watching for predators as she leaves the pond. Overall, this was a beautiful and interesting scene to have experienced. The next cow I will show was in the northern part of the state of Washington. This cow was anything but relaxed. She was immediately nervous when she saw us, although we weren't close. As you watch this cow, pay attention to the hair on top of her neck and her withers, which is the hump on top of her shoulders. The hair is standing erect, and this is often referred to as her having her hackles up. This is very much like a dog bristling whenever the dog feels threatened. If you ever see a moose raise its hackles and lay its ears back along its neck, it's definitely time to back off and leave the area. We did back off until she turned and ran away. Now let's look at some bulls in summertime and notice they too are healthy, shiny, and their antlers are definitely growing. This bull, grazing in beautiful flowers, was in northern Colorado. Bulls have a large pouch called a bell under their jaw. The bell, in turn, has a rope attached to it. Cows have ropes but do not have bells. When looking at moose after the bulls have shed their antlers in the wintertime, the lack or presence of a bell can distinguish whether you're looking at a cow or a bull. Although this bull is living a solitary existence, it is common for bulls to band together in what is called a bachelor herd during the summertime. The bachelor herds will stay together until the rutting season approaches. As you can see, large bulls will tolerate the presence of smaller bulls in the bachelor herds. When the rutting season begins in mid-September, the smaller bulls wouldn't dare get this close to this large bull. These bulls were in the Snowy Range area of the Medicine Bow Mountains in Wyoming. My 9-year-old granddaughter and I had fun watching these bulls for 5 days. I can't imagine a better way to spend 5 days with a granddaughter on a camping trip. This bull exhibits a nice bell and rope. Some bulls have lost their rope after it was destroyed by being frozen in extremely cold weather. As we move into fall, we find the moose looking shiny, fat, and healthy. Remember that baby calf we saw 5 months ago? This is how the calves look this time of year. As I mentioned before, moose milk is very rich and the calves grow very quickly. The bulls have shed their velvet and also are looking very healthy. With the approaching mating season, which is also called the rutting season, the moose become much more vocal. The bulls tend to grunt, often with every other stride, and the cows tend to bellow. At any time of year, but especially during the rut, realize that moose can change from calm to agitated very quickly. As the cow bellows, you can clearly hear the bull grunting in the background. These interactions between the cows and the bulls continue throughout the night. Within days, more bulls begin to migrate into the rutting area. And often the bigger bulls come in just a little later. The older, more experienced bulls seem to know the cows really aren't ready to mate just yet. The bulls will find a cow approaching estrus and will stay with that cow and guard her from other bulls for a week or more. Typically, the bull stays with the same cow until she comes into estrus and is receptive to mating. The bulls rattle their antlers in brush, both to intimidate other bulls and to attract the cows. Rubbing the antlers in the brush is also a means to remove any remaining velvet from their antlers. The ultimate intimidation of other bulls is a slow motion rocking of both the body and the antlers, as well as grunting while they walk. Most smaller bulls can hold their ground until the larger bull turns toward them and makes direct eye contact. Bulls of similar size often have sparring sessions to test the strength of the other bull. Usually, only the sparring sessions between two very large dominant bulls become aggressive. Once dominance has been established, the smaller bulls know to keep their distance. Although it's unusual, this bull has managed to attract 9 cows. One young cow has dared to cross the river, leaving him behind with the remaining 8 cows. As he approaches to bring her back, notice how carefully he is walking in the smooth river rock, which is very slippery. He could have easily wedged his foot in between some rocks and done serious damage to his hoof or ankle. As he approaches the young cow, he rattles his antlers in the brush to intimidate her. She gets the message and returns to the herd. Bulls create what is called a scrape or a rutting pit by stirring up the dirt and urinating into it to create a muddy mess. The next step is to rub the bell and rope into the mess and then to lay down in it. This is another bull establishing a rutting pit. Nearby is a cow who had shown no interest in this bull whatsoever. Suddenly, the bull is much more interesting to her. This scene clearly shows how effective a rutting pit can be. I mentioned earlier that one bull had attracted 9 cows. Multiple cows with one bull can create some tension. As the bull urinates, notice how many cows are attracted. This cow has decided she does indeed like this bull. When she hears another bull grunting in the distance, she actually chases that bull away. Cow's urine also contains powerful pheromones. Bulls have a gland in the roof of their mouth called the Jacobson's gland. This gland can detect when the pheromones indicate the cow is truly in heat or estrus. The bull sniffs the scent in, then closes off his nostrils and slowly exhales out his mouth past the Jacobson's gland. This process is called phlegmon. As the cow becomes more receptive, the bull will test her willingness to stand by applying pressure to her rump with his chin. Although this testing can last several hours, eventually the pair will mate. The pair may mate several times before the bull leaves to find another cow. When the rutting season is over, the moose return to a more solitary lifestyle. Winter is a season that creates beautiful scenery. However, it also creates great hardships for animals like moose. Moose will do their best to conserve energy by limiting their activity. The calves will stay with their mother throughout the winter. As the snow accumulates, the moose will be required to browse rather than graze throughout the winter. The bulls will shed their antlers usually somewhere between mid-December and late January. Although the moose are trying to conserve energy, that doesn't mean they can't become aggressive. Moose that live in areas with gray wolves can never let their guard down. Some moose actually move to higher altitude to get the advantage of having deeper snow. The long legs of moose give them an advantage over gray wolves in deep snow. But that advantage goes to the gray wolves if the snow becomes crusted. Regardless of altitude, browsing is the way moose stay alive through the winter. Moose have a bulbous nose which is somewhat comical in appearance. I had mentioned earlier how the nostrils can close to allow underwater grazing. The hair on the muzzle is shorter to allow greater sensitivity. The upper lip is elongated and has great mobility to aid in browsing. All in all, that doofus-looking nose or muzzle is one of the moose's greatest attributes. As winter moves on, the moose's hair coat will become more bleached and look less shiny. This cow hasn't rubbed bare spots into her hair coat, which is an indication she is not carrying external parasites like ticks. The moose will do their best to maintain their body weight, but regardless of how much they graze or browse, they will lose weight before spring. Without a doubt, all moose will welcome spring with fresh grazing and fresh browsing. Rather than spending too much time on winter, I think it would be best to simply say winter is a time for moose to dig in and survive until spring. I will take a few minutes to discuss health challenges faced by moose. I will be showing interesting scenes of moose to hold your attention while I'm speaking of the health conditions. Most scenes will not be related to health challenges. I will point out images that are related to the health condition I am speaking about. First, let's discuss some moose population numbers. In Wyoming, the Jackson herd, which covers 2,000 square miles in and around Jackson Hole, Wyoming, numbered over 5,000 animals in 1992. A precipitous drop in numbers began in 1993. By 2014, the population was down from 5,000 to 450 animals. That is over a 90% drop in 22 years. Let's compare that to moose numbers in Colorado. In 1978 and 1979, 24 moose were released in Jackson County in North Park. In 2017, the moose population in Jackson County has increased to almost 600 animals. That is a 2,400% increase in 39 years. So in Wyoming, the Jackson Hole herd decreased 90% in 22 years, while in North Park, Colorado, the herd increased 2,400% in 39 years. Why is there such a remarkable disparity? The physical habitat in the two areas is very similar. Let's have a look at the health challenges that may be responsible. Winter range was overbrowsed by cattle and elk during the 1960s in the Jackson Hole area. Habitat restoration has improved conditions in many of these areas. However, several large-scale fires have changed previously forested areas to grassland-type areas, which provide less shade and browsing. This results in heat stress during summer months, as well as nutritional stress leading to lower pregnancy rates, birth rates, newborn survival, and calf survival when compared to unburned areas. Moose numbers in Yellowstone National Park plummeted immediately after the enormous 1988 fires. With climate change, we are seeing severe weather patterns favoring conditions more likely to generate more frequent fires, causing further habitat destruction. I haven't seen enough habitat destruction in the Jackson Hole area to account for this enormous drop in population. These images show a cow in Grand Teton National Park with a severe winter tick infestation.
Winter ticks are a persistent problem with moose across the nation. The ticks cause severe irritation leading to hair loss as well as anemia. Severe infestation can be fatal in extremely cold weather. Tick numbers peak after a mild winter and warm spring weather. At present, the ticks are most prevalent in the southern portions of the Jackson Hole herd, but with climate change will very likely become more prevalent in the northern portions of the herd as well. The Colorado moose also have winter tick infestations. Carotid artery worms, which are spread by horseflies, infest deer, sheep, elk, and moose. Once infected, the young parasites move to the carotid arteries to mature. As they become adults, they produce microfilaria, which move to the arteries of the face and forehead as well as the brain, potentially causing symptoms such as blindness, deformed antlers, shortened ears, and severe neurological problems. Blindness and neurological problems will lead to death. In 1973 and 1974, 69 hunter-harvested moose from the Jackson Hole area were examined and no carotid worm infection was found. 35 years later, in 2009, another study of hunter-harvested moose found 60% had carotid artery worms. Roadkill moose and moose euthanized due to extreme emaciation have an even higher prevalence of the worms. I am not aware of any study of these parasites in Colorado's North Park herd. Fortunately, moose in Wyoming and Colorado have not been infected by a brainworm found in states with high numbers of white-tailed deer. The deer have become very resistant to the devastating effects of the brainworms, but moose have virtually no resistance. In white-tailed deer, the worms remain on the surface of the brain and spinal cord, causing little damage. But in moose, the worms actually penetrate into the nerve tissue, nearly always resulting in death. The deer spread larvae in their feces, which in turn infect slugs and snails. The moose then ingest the slugs and snails while grazing or browsing. The larvae then penetrate the stomach wall and migrate to the nervous system. Clinical symptoms such as circling, weakness of the hindquarters, inability to stand, blindness, and loss of fear can occur within 60 days of infection. Historically, white-tailed deer and moose didn't share the same areas since the deer couldn't survive the harsh winters moose tolerate. But as winters become less harsh with climate change, the deer are moving into areas that were historically too cold. Moose in the northeastern states of the United States are having a huge problem with brainworms. The moose health issues related to climate change I have just discussed are clearly reason for alarm. The concern is not just for moose, every natural system on this planet is being assaulted. While there is heated, no pun intended, disagreement about the cause of climate change, no one can legitimately dispute we are in a severe climate crisis. For those who continue to deny climate change by burying their heads in the sand, I would suggest selecting sand well above current sea level. For the health issues I have just discussed, I see no significant difference between the Jackson Hole, Wyoming herd and the Jackson County, Colorado herd. Although there is resistance to blaming wolves for being a significant reason for declining moose numbers in the Jackson Hole herd, I personally find it more than coincidental wolf numbers in the Jackson Hole area grew rapidly at the same time moose numbers in the Jackson herd dropped dramatically. A study of winter wolf kills in the northern portion of Grand Teton National Park showed 43 moose kills over 2 winters. This was 33% of all wolf kills found in that area. Elk made up nearly all the remaining kills. Considering the huge disparity in population of elk compared to moose, the relatively high percentage of winter moose kills was probably due to the massive numbers of elk migrating to the National Elk Refuge near Jackson during the winter, where they are fed hay daily. In 2011, Grand Teton National Park rangers reported no moose calf born in 2010 lived to be a year of age. Cows with calves live a very solitary life. Although cows will protect their calves valiantly, defending a calf from a wolf pack is virtually impossible. Clearly, when population numbers are dropping from several causes, 0% repopulation is devastating. Predation by wolves, and to a lesser extent grizzly bears, continues to impact moose numbers in the Jackson Hole herd. Recently, there have been reports of wolf sightings in Colorado's North Park. I anticipate I will get strong blowback from wolf lovers regarding my comments on wolves in the Jackson Hole herd. This concludes my discussion of moose health issues. After 17 years of watching and videotaping moose, I felt it was time to produce a video expressing my admiration for these animals. We have followed moose through all 4 seasons of the year. We have watched moose as they grow from tiny babies to mature cows and bulls. I hope that as you watch this video, you can sense the excitement I feel anytime I see a moose. And I also hope you picked up some information you found to be interesting. Moose are magnificent and intriguing animals. Here is to hoping we all have many more moose encounters.